So I want to now bring back, I don't want to shortchange communication. Okay, this is about imagination and communication, and we have given all the time to imagination. So now, but people do want to talk about imagination. So how does communication, let's take this example of our meetups. What can we learn about communication? What have you learned about communication? And what communication can do for you? How it can build whatever, increase what you can do. What role has communication in the 52 living ideas played in your life? I would really love to know. So let's start with Kavita, followed by Joe and Maritza. Kavita.
I think this meetup was actually meant for me and all my, shortcomings, because I was not a person who would talk or express my ideas just like anybody else would in this meetup, basically. I started just as a listener. I've never read any books before. I have come to know so many good authors on self-improvement, mind hacking, mindfulness. There's so much that I have learned from this meetups, and I have not expressed it, but it gave me an idea how to actually project my thoughts by journaling, because these are the techniques that I picked up from these meetups. And this is because people have shared and communicated what they have experienced after learning these great books, and interacting with these authors and their perspectives, different point of views, which has actually I have gained a lot of knowledge. Like, it's like I read a book even without opening its page. So it's like that for me. And I'm talking like this because I mean, I can keep on talking about this because it has helped me to communicate better now. I journal every day. I put and organize my thoughts in a better way. And people have seen my change, the way I approach, the attitude, the confidence that I've gained during these days. So yeah, I'm a living example of what communication can do.
Wonderful, wonderful, Kavita. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Next up, and it's wonderful to have you here. Next up is Joe, Maritza, Evanik, Mike, and Ambika. Joe.
So I think actually this evening is one of the best examples of this. We each read the chapter. And I had actually spoken, as I'd mentioned previously, I'd spoken to Becky a little bit about what her thoughts were on the chapter and things like that, and just collaborating. And as I was speaking then things started to make sense. And then when you come here and you speak again, you say it again, things start to make sense even more. And then you hear, I really thought, Jang was spectacular, and David in particular. What they said was just, really, really made it crystal clear to me on so many levels, especially the diagrams on communication, specifically how each spiral works individually. And then Mike's point on training and versus development. All these things would not have happened in a vacuum. And that's what 52 Living Ideas allows you to do. It brings everybody together. Everybody brings what they have to say, and each person said something a little different. And now we have different perspectives. And so what little I would have extracted, I have a goal of getting one thing out of each chapter. That's just, I'm not trying to understand the entire book cover to cover. If I get one thing out of each chapter, but when I come here and hear other people, then I get 10 things out of each chapter. Mm-hmm. And so, and so I think that this is the real value here. And not only that, again, it's an act of courage to put yourself out there, to actually put the words that you're thinking to someone else, when you're trying to interpret any of the topics that we're talking about, some of the more philosophical ones, or even some of the more ones that are related to design or the Bible, whatever it may be. So I think that that's where it really is something where it's a feedback loop, and it is a community of learners, and this is a way of learning, a very effective way of learning as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Thanks. Next up is Maritza, Evanik, Mike, and Ambika. Maritza.
For me, Shrikant, I have learned with this group here that the most important thing about communication is actually the listening. And also, you know, we sit here, you know, we have our low exclamation marks, and sometimes you're very long before your turn. And it's the fascinating thing that happens is that as we listen to others' responses, our own response gets sharpened, and it sets us up for more precision when we do speak. Like, it helps to solidify what we meant to say or what we were about to say. And I think that that is just invaluable to take with us, even when we're no longer in this room here. And it also, for me specifically, it's it feeds into the courage of voicing one's convictions. For me specifically, voicing my convictions. I have often walked with, you know, these like concepts that I thought were these big random thoughts, and I wasn't confident enough to voice them, or if I voiced them, maybe I just whispered them and hoped nobody noticed it came from me. But coming here and walking with all of you, I find that it's easier. It becomes more natural to speak with conviction about something that is a belief and preface it as such. And that the important part is to remain open to the possibility for disagreement and for having my thought or idea changed by somebody else's thought or idea. And that to me is like, it's a fascinating aspect of communication that is like not often considered when we're thinking about communication. Is like, in the listening, what you thought you wanted to convey may become something different, more robust and more complete even, which is pretty fascinating.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maritza. Thank you. Next up is going to be Evanik, Mike, Ambika, and Jeff. Evanik.
Yeah, I mean, what I've gotten out of this past year with 52 Living Ideas is the ability to be vulnerable. I think other people spoke on it, but vulnerable for me personally is one of those things it's hard to be. So I'm the type of person that I like to have everything thought out, outlined, whatever. And what I find in 52 Living Ideas is that I can put an idea out there that's not like perfect, and then get thoughts around it, and have other people build on it, or have other people, you know, disagree with it. And disagreeing in a respectful way makes you grow, I think. You know, you said something about being uncomfortable, and yes, it is uncomfortable. That's part of the vulnerability. But what you have created, and what all of us have created, I think, in this group, is that people can be comfortable being uncomfortable and be comfortable with being vulnerable, because we're all doing the same thing. We're all running our thoughts, and we are all expressing when our thoughts change based on what other people say, other people's viewpoints. And I think it's no mistake that it's just from people around the world and different thoughts in the breakout rooms. And like I said, tonight was a difficult chapter. I was like so looking forward to reading it, and then I was like, I don't get it. And then people spoke and people got their thoughts, and I was like, oh, I get this now. This is clicking for me now. So I think this chapter in particular goes across meetups. Like, I've learned to read the Bible in a whole new way. I've learned Tao Te Ching, which I never studied before. The Gita, that, you know, that is the one I know the absolute least about, but having people that have knowledge of it and just being able to even be able to say, you know what, I don't even have anything to contribute, but I can sit back and get contributions from other people. That environment has created like this, you know, it's what keeps you coming back every day. At the end of the day, it's like one of those things, you come back end of the day and you have all these, you come in from work and you could just sit down and talk to people about different ideas and different things and be vulnerable and just know that you have people here that are going to support you. And they're not going to tear you down because, you know, you can't form your idea clearly, or, you know, you can just express yourself and feel comfortable and feel supported. So
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Evanik. Thank you. Next up is Mike, Ambika, and Jeff. Mike.
Yeah, I was going to talk about listening too, how it's really helped me work on what Maritza covered everything that I would have said. The other takeaway from 52 Living Ideas is I'm starting to really guard my time more now. So we're going to be together tonight. I guess we're going to push 3 hours at some point. And if I were not doing this, it's the end of the day. I could be sitting in front of the TV sometimes just watching the same movie. I can do movie quotes, you know, with my eyes closed. And I say to myself, do I really want to watch this movie for the 30th time? You know, I grew up in the TV age, but since meeting all of you and spending this much time together, I'm starting to guard my time, my spare time, a little more carefully. And it's been quite beneficial, to say the least.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Next up is Ambika, followed by Jeff. Ambika.
I think it's all been covered very beautifully. And I think this is a lovely space. Believe it or not, there are moments when I still get shy to speak out, but I do it when I can. It's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to point out Kavita Rajkumari. Her name is Poem Princess.
Thank
Kavita
you.
means poem, poet, and Rajkumari means princess. You know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is going to be Jeff.
So, Shrikanta, I think that one of the things that sort of gets understood because it's so embedded in the culture of 52 Living Ideas is that everyone is invited to authentically share their perspective. And even, you know, as you sometimes say, to disagree. But what's not going on is when each of us shares our perspective, is that we have to sort of defend it in any kind of an argument with anyone. You know, it's not undergoing criticism by somebody else. You just get to share it, and it's yours, and it's your perspective on something that either we read or what it made us think, or questions that are posed that we resonate with. And you can do it authentically, really without concern that someone is going to sort of come in and actively contradict it in a way that it becomes an argument. And I think that is a bit of the psychological safety that's embedded in the culture you created, that allows people to really share these different perspectives and be excited about doing it. And it would be very different if it was arguing or presenting, critiquing, and defending. That's a really different culture. And so I appreciate that. And I also really notice it in terms of folks feeling excited about stepping up. So I think that's a big part of the communication and, you know, inside the culture of this meetup.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. So from my side, I want to give you an example of the kinds of things that I am learning through communication here. We're doing these 3 books. Tao Te Ching, Bible, and Gita. Now, the thing is, I'm not religious, and I have had no religious background. I did grow up in the Indian culture, but ever since I was maybe 13, 14, I've not been religious, and I've not been focused on any religion all this time. So this is all completely new to me. It started with Tao Te Ching. Tao Te Ching, the distance between, I'm fortunate. I've lived half my life in India, half my life in the West. So at least I have those two. I have some base, but I have no base in China whatsoever. And to actually learn that, and I work very hard. I worked very hard. I would read multiple translations. And when I came to the meetup after reading all the translations, what various people had to say would make it rise up like 5x, because it is poetry. It is very deep poetry, and different people got different aspects of it. People came, there are some people like Kevin, like Jason, like Jang, like Amon, who really know the work and who are able to bring in. But at the same time, there are people like Evanique or Joe who do not have that, but they have other base like the Bible, and they are able to bring that to bear. Each person is able to bring their rich context to bear on the same work. And what you end up getting from it is something else. So I said, okay, let me be more ambitious and let me take on the Bible. And we chose the Gospel of John. And that has been just incredible for me, because I love the West. I am an American, and that is my base. Yet I did not have the Bible. So it is actually showing me the base behind what I know and love. And it is showing it in a way which is connecting to all the ideas that I have, that I've been thinking about, to realize that this was one of the first attempts, just like with Greeks. This was an early attempt of trying to make sense of the human condition. And it is a glorious attempt. And you have to read it. You're actually communicating with the book. You're communicating with the minds of Lao Tzu. You're communicating with the minds of John and others. Then we added Bhagavad Gita. Again, in that, Gospel of John has moved to a completely new level. Once we have introduced Thomas Aquinas in, we are integrating Thomas Aquinas commentary, and he's showing me something which is actually something else, which is like another order of magnitude higher of how do you use words? How do you think? And I've concluded that I can only babble. And so I can see like a 10x improvement possible in what I am saying right now, because that's what Aquinas actually does in sentence after sentence and in lecture after lecture. And then it is Bhagavad Gita. And that in some ways is the most interesting, most challenging, because it is connecting up with my past. I have all that culture in me. At the same time, I have been away from it. So I'm discovering something new. But the level that is next after that is to see connections between these things. And at each of these, not only in the part of communing with the text and in being able to see connections between them, everybody who is here is contributing, is adding there. And it's like hearing things in stereo or in this very rich sound. You know, you're standing in the middle of the room and all these great people are talking to you, and each is putting forth their own viewpoint. You know, you disagree with many things, and that's how it should be. You know, you have your own thoughts, and those are very important, to have your own thoughts, but you are listening to the other people. The listening, I've learned to listen a little bit better than what I've been able to do before. So folks, thank you so much. This has been, you know, this is just such an incredible experience. And thank you for the comments on the communication. And we're going to keep building on this, you know, and I think new things are going to come out of it. It's the big thing that I'm trying to do. My next big project is to take some of the things which we are doing at the oral level and put it back into writing. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that. My first project is going to be, I'm taking the meetups that Mark Stallman has done with us on the 3 spheres and make that into a written work. So that's what I'm working on. But I look forward to doing more of that. And again, I'm open to any kind of ideas, any kind of collaboration that anybody wants to do on that, of how do you move from, we've kind of shown how you can take a book, take something that is written and put an envelope of conversation around it in order to bring out the most of it. We saw it happen live today. Okay, the discussion, I think we got a lot more, everybody got a lot more from the book as a result of this conversation. And the next step would be to say, okay, how do we bring some of it back into writing of some kind so that that can serve as a higher base, and doing that with everything that we are doing, no matter what piece of writing we are looking at, whether it is Tao Te Ching, whether Bible or Bhagavad Gita, how do you go back and put it into writing so that it can serve as a higher base on which we can do another round of conversation. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Thank you very much, everybody. This has been amazing. Good night, everybody. Bye.